What are you whipping out of the brown paper bag?
Directions on how to enjoy my ramen.
Say again.
Directions on how to enjoy my ramen.
How to enjoy your ramen? Ah. Food that comes with directions.
Yeah.
Let's see what you're pulling out of the bag here. You ordered some ramen noodles?
I don't always do.
Say again.
So, which I don't always do. Usually.
I wonder if I should show some really cool comics focusing on marginalized people today.
No. Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm they're in front of me, but I don't know if I feel like digging them out. I do have some cool stuff though. I did just pick up some cool stuff yesterday. Actually, a couple cool pieces yesterday. I wonder where the gang is. Oh, we're recording.
Yeah, I told you. I thought you said okay.
I wonder where the gang is. So you're eating a vegetarian dish right now?
I am.
And what does it consist of?
I don't know, some ramen. I'm just not. The fact that they had instructions on this makes me a little weary.
That had me like, huh?
Like I gotta put it together, or like it's not really done yet, or I gotta add water. Like this isn't. I don't want to be adding stuff.
Is this a first for you? This is the first time you ordered this?
Yeah.
So what kind of ramen is it? Is it like?
It's Fukuoka style tonkatsu ramen.
Okay.
There's tofu on top, and there's little sesame seeds and whatnot.
Now, where'd you order this from?
Someplace called Danbo.
It's pretty late, and they're still delivering, huh?
Yeah, this was the last delivery.
That's a nice size cup of ramen there.
Yeah. Oh, no, it isn't though, because it's.
I see you took a little thing off the top.
Yeah, and half of this is not even half of it is filled with the
sauce.
The broth.
So you have to add the noodles to the broth?
Yeah, they said I was supposed to warm it up, but I don't know. It doesn't taste okay like this, then I may be warming it up.
Now, are you using chopsticks? Are you using chopsticks?
Yeah.
How are you going to eat the broth?
Well, traditionally, you kind of drink it up like a cup.
Okay.
Guys did not deliver to my door. I had to call them to come back.
Wait, what?
I had to call them back to deliver it to my door.
Where'd they deliver it?
To the front of the apartment, the vestibule of the apartment.
Oh, they wanted you to meet them down there?
No, they didn't say anything about meeting them. I buzzed them in. The next thing you knew, I saw them heading back out.
Well, they just were gonna leave it on the steps.
Well, like in between, like not maybe not on the steps. Like I buzzed them in, so either in between the two doors, um, like where the mail boxes are,
Really?
or maybe inside, maybe all the way inside the second door, just like at the front of the apartment building, like when you first come in, like
So that
someone else, like basically
anybody
someone
can
else
just
is going.
come.
Yeah, no, this is yeah, man. It's one of the things I just don't get it. It's like it's we live in one of the biggest cities in the world. You know what an apartment is. It's not like I made up the concept for an apartment and it's this strange place where you're like, oh, I thought it was a personal house. So I left it in the front. Like, this is an apartment. You know what an apartment is. Hey, what's up,
So
bro?
they
What's up,
so,
guys?
so were they reluctant? Hey, Raul, what's going on, man?
Not bad,
Uh,
not bad.
I wouldn't call it reluctant. When I called them and I was like, hey, you didn't, deliver the food to my door. They just said something like, oh, yeah, we put it to the side. And, like, I knew that they didn't. So I looked out my door real quick. And I'm like, no, you didn't put it to the side. I don't know where you put it. You probably put it in the front of the building. You know, can you come deliver it? And they're like, okay, bye. I'm like, yo, can you come deliver my food? And they're like, okay. But I don't know if that was like they honestly didn't hear me or there was a language
So wait a minute.
thing.
You had to implore
Yes.
a restaurant to have their delivery man deliver your food.
Yeah. And I think it was two of them. I think it was him and like either his son or daughter. Yep, this has happened. This has happened before. Now, I usually tip well, but I did not tip as well as I usually do.
You tip well.
Nor should we. Nor should we. Nor should you.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and again, it's not like, I'm in a town full of houses and I'm like the first apartment on the block and no one has figured these weird buildings out yet.
See, this is the benefit of living in a city, but not living in like cities such as like in LA or New York City or like Houston.
Usually people know what's up. I mean,
I'm going to visit Houston very soon. My cousin is moving out there with her boyfriend, and she's living close by to us now. But unfortunately, with the COVID virus, we haven't been able to go see her all the time she's been in the state. But she's moving out there with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's apparently got a hot shot lawyer deal going on, so so we're very proud of him. But and she's a nurse practitioner, so she's got a maid wherever she goes.
She's got a hot shot deal going on too.
Oh no, they're definitely a power couple if you rank things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
no,
cool.
It's great. It's great. I'm very proud of them. They both work hard for their degrees and stuff like that. It's not easy, especially in this time with a bunch of distractions.
Yeah, there's a nurse practitioner that
demand. Oh yeah, Flick.
For the skill.
Yeah,
it's basically like an assistant. I'm sorry for the issue.
No, go on, Ro. You can.
It's an assistant to a doctor, like the number one assistant.
Okay.
So
you it's not just the nurse.
You have nurse practitioners and physicians assistants, right?
Pardon me.
Jobs are pretty much interchangeable. PAs versus NPs. They're pretty much interchangeable. A lot of times, it's that. So like many nurse practitioners start off as nurses, but it's definitely higher learning. When I worked in the hospital, for instance, we had one neurosurgeon. There's two neurosurgeons here for like the tri-state area, and he usually has two nurse practitioners that fill in for him as often as possible because he's the only neurosurgeon. So they're pretty specialized.
Yeah, and depending on what they do, like some of them go into endocrinology or or
neurosurgery,
neurosurgery, like you said,
cardiology.
cardiology. That's a good one. I've seen a lot of good jobs in that place. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they're
definitely
very specialized.
definitely a high rated position, very
Yep.
respected.
It's the nurse practitioner. I don't know I think my microphone might have faded out, but the nurse practitioner and the physician's assistant are interchangeable.
Right.
In many cases.
You're right. Yeah. So guys, I have to mention, now that you're both here with me, dude, the slaughter at DC Comics, unbelievable.
Yeah, man.
Wait, what happened? I didn't hear.
They
somebody
have
walked up in the building and shot everybody. No, I'm kidding.
No, he's kidding. Thank God, that would be awful. But no, they
You're frozen, which means I'm frozen.
Frozen.
Oh, gotcha.
Whenever he sees us as frozen, it's because he's frozen.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting because AT&T, which obviously owns Time Warner,
yeah,
this was the rumor coming into 2020.
I heard something that they were going to do big shakeups, but I didn't know it was going to be. Right.
So they started shipping comics on Tuesdays. Normally comics come on Wednesdays.
Right.
Through Diamond Distribution.
Right.
Well, maybe 2 months ago, DC just put out a notice to everyone. It was like, okay, we're no longer with Diamond. We have our own distribution. We'll be shipping comics on Tuesdays. And, as I work part-time, I moonlight, and I help. So a friend of mine owns a comic store.
Okay, great.
So a couple days a week, I'll go in there when I have free time or when I have some time off, and I'll help him so I don't have to pay for my comics. You know what I mean? I'll help him like with the orders or what have you.
Sounds good. So,
yeah. One of the things we were talking about was like, it's very frustrating with DC right now because like, especially for him, right? Because when you had one distributor, so I don't know if you know how it works, right? You get a discount based upon the amount of the books you order.
Yeah. I do. I have worked for comic book shops before.
Okay, so you get a discount through Diamond. The more you order, the better the discounts you get.
Absolutely.
Well, with DC cutting ties with Diamond, every dealer, their total order dropped.
Right.
By however many number of DC books they were ordering from Diamond.
Right.
Well, now we have two different places to order from, and clearly we're not ordering the same. Who orders? No one right now in the 21st century and in 2019 through 2020 is ordering tons of DC Comics. It's just DC Comics, just like their titles aren't great. So no one's ordering tons and tons of DC Comics. So they're not getting good deals there either. But coming into 2020, AT&T said that the rumor was AT&T put out that they were looking to go towards digital comics.
Right.
Because the cost of production for an actual comic book, they didn't think was worth what they're spending. Like, yeah, they make a profit, but it's negligible. So one of the rumors was that AT&T was more concerned about licensing IPs, right? Because
that's where the big money is. But
you got Superman, you got Wonder Woman, you got Flash. Like, these are
big
things,
big names,
huge names.
Yeah. But the problem is that when you take away the comic side of the business, you take away basically your R&D for future IPs.
Yep.
And I think it's a foolish, like Disney would never do this, because they know that the bullpit of ideas is only germinated at the comics level. Then you can take advantage of that later and have movies and TV series and games and lots of big ticket items based on on those properties.
Well, I don't know that
there's again
intellectual property. Mike?
Yeah.
Are you hearing this, brother?
It's intellectual property.
I got you.
Okay. So the thing is, though, I don't know because I haven't read about it. I don't know if they're actually getting rid of the comics division altogether. I know in November they slashed like 10 titles. Gone.
It's a lot more than 10 titles. I just looked at an article on Super Geek. Somebody posted it up, and at least 20 titles, for sure. And the majority of them are big name titles. There are the Batman series, the Hawkman series. I mean, it's not small.
Wonder Woman's gone. They're saying Aquaman is going to be gone.
Yeah.
Justice League Dark is going to be gone, which is interesting because there's going to be a Justice League Max television show on HBO Max. Justice League Dark is gone. Probably Red Hood.
What's the reason for this?
So they're not selling, sadly.
Yeah, they sell, but the thing is, they don't sell enough.
Yeah.
To AT&T, the profit is just negligible. Right? It's just not enough for them to justify continuing, according to AT&T, continuing to have DC Comics as a comic company. Now, their thought process is kind of like I was just saying before. They own the Superman IP. They own the Wonder Woman IP. They own, like, DC's big, people call it the big three, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. I call it the big four because I think Flash is just as recognizable.
Yeah, especially now after 7 years of the TV show. It did a lot for the IP.
But I mean, even people say we didn't have the TV show. Most people recognize the Flash lightning bolt on a T-shirt.
Oh yeah, they do.
You know what I mean?
I have one.
Yeah, so it's, I think Flash is as recognizable, even if no one's ever, really paid attention to any Flash property. I think so I always call it the big four. But those big four are, like, they'll always be able to make money off Superman. Forever. You understand what I'm saying? Whether Superman is a comic book or not, they'll always be able to make money off of the Superman IP, the Wonder Woman IP. Speaking to what Raul said, the potential for them to have new IPs is now gone because they need the comic medium to do that. You know what I mean? Like, something new and something great is gone.
Or even new stories to tell in the larger screens, like Red Sun.
Right.
Or something like that, like a reimagining.
Well, I could see them licensing the character to different people, like a J.J. Abrams, to just tell original stories, or, you know what I mean, original cartoon stories or what have you.
But it's still less in their pot when they can't can't sell the actual story itself.
Well, Marvel's not going to do the same thing, but I called it on Comic Sense when they announced the cancellation of Ghost Rider. I said they're gonna cancel at least 10 more titles before the year is up, and sure, like I expect them to cancel Morbius. That Morbius might last until the movie, you know what I mean. But if not, I expect them to cancel Morbius. I expect them to cancel the Black Widow title. I expect them to. There's like a bunch of titles that I just expect. This Iron Man 2020. There's a bunch of titles, Swordmaster, that Agents of Wakanda. I just expect those titles to go away.
Yeah, pretty much, because they're either minor titles or their sales are negligible.
Right. They're gonna keep, obviously, the Avengers. They'll probably reboot Captain America again. Thor's gonna stick around because
they're the big names for Marvel. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. The X-Men books
plus
will stick
with
around.
The movies, their awareness on the pop culture is pretty big.
I guess Sam's not a fan of comic books. He popped in and popped right back out.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I was looking at the screen when it was up. Ish was up.
Oh, I never noticed because I'm usually on my phone. I won't be, but I've been on my phone, so I'd never notice. When I only see the person who's talking.
Oh, right.
So
Raul, I have to say, you look quite different.
Yes. I like I was telling the other guys last night. I was telling my church folk this morning. That I just got tired of every time I took a nap, and I take a series of naps. I don't really sleep that well. So every time I got tired of taking a nap, waking up, and I had the the crazy professor hair and the beard that looks like I had things stuck in it. It was pretty terrible. It was pretty terrible. So I just decided, let me just cut it all and let it grow again. But if you can tell, I already have a 5 o'clock shadow, and it's been only 2 days.
Yeah, you got the Joel Ortiz, beard.
Yeah, no, I was meant to have hair. It's not a joke. I'm not scared of losing my hair at any point. And my grandfather was bald at 24, so I was very scared while growing up.
I started going bald at 24.
Yeah. Well, it apparently it's an overproduction of testosterone. So your wife must be happy. That's what that means.
That's what all that was about, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what they say. That's what they say.
She'd walk like 5 feet, and it's as far as I let her get.
Chase her down.
Like I'd get off work, she'd come in the door, and I wouldn't even let her get past the door. This
might
be too much info.
Oh my age.
That's just what it was. Like rabbits.
I know.
So did you do it yourself?
Yeah, I have a heavy machine to cut hair, usually for my beard. Clippers from Wall. That's a great company.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So so it's a big heavy industrial machine kind of thing. It's not like the little clippers that they give you at Walmart and stuff. It's a big one. So
yes, that's like mine.
I just and it was the end of it.
Yeah, it's like mine. I have balding clippers.
Now I look like Big Joe, Fat Joe. So I've been listening to Fat Joe, by the way, Flav, because of you.
Oh, cool. What album? Any particular album?
I don't know the album. I just put it on what's it called? Spotify has this service called Spotify This Is, and then
okay.
And then so it gives you the best of the collection.
Sure. If you can.
So was this inspired by Fat Joe licking his sneaker?
Yes, basically. I was like, let me see about Fat Joe, and I like it. I like his stuff. He talks about Cubans too, which is pretty hilarious.
You should listen to Big Pun.
Big Pun too. I like Big Pun. I haven't heard him in years though.
If you can get your hands on Jealous One's Envy,
Joe.
Which it took me years to realize. Oh, that's an acronym for Joe.
Yeah. Joe.
Yeah.
Right.
Joe.
Now Jealous One's Still Envy. I can't recommend that one, even though Spotify probably will.
Jose.
Yeah, I don't recommend that one. But if you can get your hands on Jealous One's Envy, let me know what you think, because that album I compare to Ready to Die. I think.
I can't believe it took you years to figure out it was an acronym.
I just never thought about it, because it wasn't like Jealous One's Envy. It's not like they have the dots or anything. Like, I don't know. I just never.
Yeah, but it's like Joe. And it's this is hip hop. It's like creative. That's what they do. That's why I'm just surprised for you of all people.
Yeah, if they had put J.O.E. Jealous One's Envy, I would have known. And I think what happened was with Jose, Jealous One's Still Envy. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, Jealous One's Still Envy. And then I'm like, oh, Jealous One's Envy, Joe. Jose. I'm like, damn, I never even thought of that. Jealous One's Envy. I just never thought about it.
Then you're like, oh, it's even doper. Oh, I see what he did there. That's one of those epiphany moments where you go call everyone and be like, did you know?
But going back to the comics for a second, guys, I'm still upset, so I want to talk about it a little bit.
I do too. Listen, I'm always around to talk about comics.
The thing is, like, I can't get over how short-sighted the Time Warner is being. I really can't. It's like they don't understand. I'm sure that the executives don't understand the comic industry at all, or the provisions that it provides to them long term.
So this is what I heard, and I got to confirm everything. I got to confirm what I'm hearing from you and cross-reference it with what I've heard, because I kind of been out of touch this past week, social media wise. I was in the shop, and one of the guys came in, Adam, who also sometimes works in the shop, and he was like, "Did you hear about the big shakeup at DC?" And I read that Jim Lee stepped down. That
I heard that.
Didio is now working at Image, and that Time Warner execs have they're not actually getting rid of the DC line right away, and that the Time Warner execs have taken over the comic line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is okay, you guys don't know comics, but I will say this: DC has been a mess. So while you're right, I think that the Umbrella Corporation, Time Warner / AT&T, certainly are selling themselves short. The problem is DC, the company, has been a mess for like 5 years now.
It's those restarts. It killed the excitement for a lot of people.
One of the things that I criticize about them, and obviously the continuity restarts, which come on, you know what I mean?
New 52 was strong. They should have just kept that. I know.
Yeah, but the problem is they came out and said we're gonna do Rebirth, but it's not a reboot, and it was a reboot.
Yeah.
It was literally exactly what they said it wasn't gonna be. Right. And then they just did it again with Doomsday Clock.
Yeah. So it's I didn't like that at all.
I liked the last issue. I thought the last issue was great.
I haven't read them all. I just read the first couple, and I was like, God.
Whoever wrote it, I can't think of offhand. He really understood Superman. Like whoever wrote this really captured what Superman is. It was really great. There was some great Easter eggs. Issue number 12, which is the first issue that I read. I ended up going back and reading the whole series, and I don't think it was great. But number 12 was just one of the best comic books I've read this year. It was really good.
I'll be honest. Superman is not my favorite. Batman and Wonder Woman are more stronger for me.
So my favorite DC character is Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's really powerful. She's awesome.
I'm not a Batman fan. I'm not a Superman fan.
I am a Batman fan because I've always preferred the Shadow kind of characters, and I think Batman owes a lot to the Shadow. First of all, because I was a big 1920s Pulp Fiction fan. Even growing up, I picked up the Shadow and the Phantom and stuff like that, and so Batman is written much in the same vein as those characters, Dark Avenger types, and so I think there's a lot to be said for Batman's origin, and it's very relatable. A lot of people have lost people, especially young people have lost people before, and it does drive a type of mania to succeed or to prove that you can overcome. So I think that Batman's a very relevant character. Whereas I think that Superman, my favorite thing about Superman is that he's an alien, and that his entire outlook on life is alien. It's not. He's maybe raised human and even American at that, but he's always going to be an outsider, always. And I've seen very few books except for like Red Sun to really appreciate that alien quality of his.
Red Sun is good. Now, here's the thing. Kingdom Come too.
Kingdom Come was just a work of art, though. There's very few things that can compare.
I mean, it's one of the best things DC ever did.
Ever. Period. Done and done.
Yeah.
When I read that, I said comics are back, and I was right. They boomed after Kingdom Come, but they couldn't keep it up apparently.
Well, it was a masterpiece. How do you follow it?
No, it's. I don't want to be the person to try and follow that with a story on the Calendar Man or something like that.
Yeah,
give me a break.
Like it was really a masterpiece.
Yes, it was.
So for me, right? Like I'm not a fan of Batman. I just can't identify with the character. However, as a fan of comics and as a fan of great writing, I appreciate when somebody really gets the character and they sell me on it. So there are Batman story arcs that I like. There are Superman story arcs.
Did you like the Batman Gotham by Gaslight?
It was okay. I thought it was okay.
I know the writer of that is actually my friend here in Arizona. I met him when I moved here, and we've been friends ever since.
Oh wow,
I saw that animation. I saw that when they turned that into a.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's one of his most defining works. He also did what's that vampire thing by Image? I can't remember now the name.
Oh, I know what you're talking. It was an older Image comic. Humberto Ramos did the art.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's it.
You're
I
talking.
can't remember the name. Scarlet, something like that.
Yeah,
One word title.
I like the book too.
It was good, and he did a lot of the Flash too. Speaking of the Flash,
that book I really liked. That what was it? Crimson.
Crimson. There we go.
Yeah, I really liked that.
He did the entire run of Crimson, and
I had the whole run. I was a big fan of that. I liked the Crimson run.
Oh well, I got to introduce you to my friend then.
I was a big fan. I had the entire run. I like the art, Humberto Ramos. I love the writing. I had the whole run of Crimson.
Yeah, he's quite a good writer. Now we're both working on novels. So
cool. Me too.
But
so it's three of us.
No. It's because unfortunately, I think the writing will never go away. As compared to the others.
That's not unfortunate.
No. I'm saying it's unfortunate for the others. I didn't get to finish. It's unfortunate for the other mediums. But writing has transformed into electronic writing, which is the sales are even better than they were before. They're just not controlled by the publishers now as much because the publishers used to flex their muscles when there was Barnes and Nobles and Borders and stuff like that. And Borders is now the way of the dodo, and Barnes and Nobles is on the chopping block for its parent company.
Well, I wanted to touch on what we were talking about before with the some of the things that I criticized about DC.
Oh yeah, please.
Outside of just the reboots. So what DC failed to do, right? I had done a study some years ago. I was going to write an essay about it, about where DC and Marvel converged. I mean, not converged, where they kind of separated as far as who they cater to. DC used to cater to kids. So you had characters named Superman. And, and mind you, DC certainly came to prominence, doing World Wars type comics in that era.
Right.
However, Marvel at one point split off and started catering to teenagers to young adults. And you got people like Peter Parker. You know what I mean? You got people like the X-Men and like all these
Iron Man, mature characters. Yeah.
Right. In DC, you still get like Lightning Lass and Matter Eater Lad. You know what I mean? Which just wasn't appealing, right? So when I look at present day DC, one of the things that I see with DC is their unwillingness to change. And
that's true.
And what I mean is they still are trying to sell the same core titles. Now, again, we could take all three of the big three, right? Batman's always been the best seller of those three. Batman's always been the best seller. And actually, say in the 80s and 90s, right? Like nothing was outselling outside of X-Men and Spider-Man. Nothing was outselling Batman and Teen Titans, right? So like Justice League wasn't selling any more than Captain America was selling for Marvel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or even Thor or Iron Man. Like, who bought Iron Man comics?
There were some few people, but very dedicated.
Right. You know what I mean? Like,
did you ever see that? Did you ever see that comic? The thing, What the? With that was What the Hell, and it had one of the issues had Iron Man and Silver Surfer arguing over which back issues were worth more. It was pretty hilarious. Right.
And it's interesting because all these comics are worth money. But, Flav, I don't know if you know this or not. And I say this all the time. Like, it's interesting how the MCU took characters that nobody really cared about in comics and made billion dollar movie franchises.
Yes.
Because
cool.
Nobody cared about Iron Man. Nobody cared about Thor.
I think it's because they got a very talented showrunner at the beginning called Joss Whedon, who did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Dollhouse, Firefly.
I'll take it a step earlier and say Jonathan Favreau.
Yeah, no, he's always been with the Disney / Marvel brand.
Like his Iron Man really put him on the map.
Absolutely.
And Joss Whedon.
What do you mean he's always been with them?
from the beginning of their project, when they decided to make the MCU a combined universe.
Right, from the first
Iron Man was his movie.
Yeah,
and Iron Man was the
first
of the MCU.
So what DC failed to do is like what Marvel did, right? Marvel in 2010, even though I question their motivations, they launched Marvel Now, and they created all of these characters that are hot, that are sticking. You know what I mean? So they literally have, that they have a renaissance of what they did in the 60s. In the 60s, Flav, just so you know, in the 60s, they dropped X-Men, Avengers, Daredevil, Fantastic Four. Like all of these books came out in the 60s. So all of the main characters that you know and love today were this like renaissance for Marvel in the 60s. Well, they did it again in 2010, or in that decade. You get Miles Morales, you obviously know Miles Morales.
Yes,
right?
And Miss Marvel. I mean,
you get Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. You get America Chavez. You get, I can go down the list of all these characters. Amadeus Cho, the totally awesome Hawk.
Jane Foster, the
Thor.
The Thor is amazing.
Yeah. So you get all of these characters that are like next wave. They're like Renaissance Squirrel Girl. These are like, it's like the 60s all over again, but with a fresh new batch of characters that are sticking, that are hot. People actually like these characters.
Oh yeah.
DC is still trying to sell you Superman.
Yep.
Which Batman, is fine. But the problem with that is, and this is my biggest criticism, you have Jim Lee as the president of operations at DC.
Dude,
and Jim Lee has an entire universe of characters called Wildstorm.
Yeah.
That you're just not, I'm like, why are you not, why would, like, enforce some nepotism here?
They bought the property Wildstorm just to can it, in my opinion, as competition. That's my opinion on Wildstorm. Unfortunately,
Wildstorm has at least 100 characters.
Yeah, it's its own universe by far.
Right, and
it's well developed.
I'd often say keep the big three. Definitely keep. You got to keep Teen Titans.
Yeah, because that's your next generation of heroes.
Yeah, whenever people ask me, "Hey, Ish, I want to get comics for my kids. What do you recommend?" I'm always Teen Titans, Miss Marvel, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Positive role models for sure.
Yeah, and stuff kids can read. And
I wish they would bring back Power Pack Marvel, because I think that was a great. It was for kids, and it was the kids of the superheroes, but it was really well done, and it was
well written.
It was frightening for kids to deal with adult level threats, and they did it with real class, which is how many times can you say about a book?
The problem with Power Pack is sales.
Sales were not great. You know why? I honestly, the outfits were silly. They're superhero outfits. They should have just kept them in like everyday wear.
Right, like what they did with the Runaways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the Runaways were like gangbusters. So
yeah, and they probably should have. I mean, the Runaways was a good book. The sales weren't bad. These are things like you got to have I'm always thinking ahead of the curve, in my opinion, when it comes to comics. Sure. I buy certain comics specifically because, like, I go out and I get the first appearance of Squirrel Girl because it just makes sense that she's gonna have a Disney cartoon. It hasn't been announced or anything, but it just makes sense to me. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
The X Babies, for instance, It just makes sense to me that this is something you probably put the X Babies on Disney Plus before we see the X-Men in the Marvel universe.
That's probably true. You
understand what I'm saying? It just makes sense. You know what I mean? And so for younger kids, because that's parents spend money.
Yeah.
But with the Wildstorm property,
yeah, that was a tremendous waste.
Listen, Clay, you don't understand. This guy has so many cool characters. I'm not saying all of them are cool, but when you got a universe with more than 100 characters, you have to imagine at least 10% of them are cool.
Yeah. That's a good analogy too, or how you say it in English. Um, it's a good estimation is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's they didn't. He's the president, and I'm like, why don't you just be nepotistic?
Yeah.
Why don't you shake out? Listen, keep Teen Titans. Obviously, keep Superman, keep Wonder Woman, keep Batman. Keep those because they're the most recognizable titles. Sure. And start getting rid of all of these other like Batman and the Outsiders or the Outlaw. You don't need that.
You know what I would keep though, if I was them, if we're talking about like keeping the 10 or 20 most titles, I would keep Legion of Heroes because they need a solid space title, to match the Guardians of the Guardians of the Universe and that sort of stuff.
The only problem with that title is that they need a better writer.
Oh no, for sure. The current writer is.
Like this guy doesn't listen.
He doesn't get it, but remember that this brought us characters like Lobo, Mentallo, stuff like that. I mean, great characters that I think have a future in DC. But again, it's all up to the DC people to make it happen.
Well, I ripped the most recent because they just relaunched it, right? So it's only on issue number 7. And I ripped number 1 apart.
Really?
And it's
that bad?
Bendis. It's a Bendis book.
Oh, it's a Bendis book. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, Bendis got full reign, right? It's the reason why the best DC title got canceled. Super Sons.
I haven't read it yet, sadly.
Super Sons was the best DC title. It's Superman's son and Batman's son.
Oh, wow.
And people loved it. It was really good. Really good. And the problem was when Bendis came to DC, they gave him free reign, and he wanted all of the Superman properties. So he took Superman's son from the writer. They had to cancel the series because he said he had plans for him. So which haven't come to fruition yet with Joshua Kent, I think is his name. It just hasn't come to fruition yet. However, Legion number 1, I tore it apart on review. I tore it apart. I couldn't find any reason. Not like I'm reading this book, and I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, to me, Legion always had potential because it was the best of the space books. Besides Challengers of the Unknown, which is an older title, I was telling them about the Challengers of the Unknown the other day. But apart from that title, they don't have a good space title, really. Like to compete with Silver Surfer or the X-Men when they went into their space phase and stuff like that.
They do have Green Lantern. The problem is,
right. I forgot. How can I forget?
Yeah, the problem is it's not being written very well. The best Green Lantern book is Far Sector, and it's kind of removed from the DC universe. It's a Young Animal title.
Oh, gotcha.
But Legion, the new Legion book, like the first thing that assaulted, like I'm reading this book because I tried to give it a chance, and they introduce a character to save the day in a full splash page, right?
Right.
He announces himself as the Karate Kid.
Oh no.
And he's dressed like a Shaolin monk. And I'm like, okay, if you're gonna appropriate culture, at least do it right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Shaolin monks are from China.
Yeah, Karate Kid is from
Japan. You know what I mean? Yeah. And soon as I saw it, he's literally he's dressed exactly like a monk from the Shaolin Temple. And he calls himself the Karate Kid. And then Aqualad, like he's got Aquaman's trident.
Right.
And he's unleashing massive power from this trident. And my first question was, how come Aquaman never did this?
Yeah, it seems, well, I don't know.
All these times that he needed to save the world.
Yeah,
he didn't think it was necessary to unleash the power from the trident. I'm like, wait a minute.
And there's no history of the trident being selective on its powers.
Right. All of a sudden, Aqualad. This thing is OP.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. So Aqualad just gonna talk to fish?
Oh no.
In the worst situations possible, he not gonna press the button and use the trident. Like as I'm reading these thoughts are just going through my head. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it doesn't make
it's
sense.
actually Aquaman's trident. It's not like he's calling it Aquaman's trident.
Right.
It's the trident he got from Aquaman, and it just unleashes all kind of massive power.
Oh yeah. Emily, Emily, you with us?
She's in Ghost. She's in Ghost mode.
Oh,
well, fortunately,
yeah.
you're
I'm
right
in
at
bed,
the end.
that's why.
You're right at the end of our thing. We're gonna come back and talk some more.
Oh, you're gonna wait. What did I miss?
Well, it's
They were
less than a minute.
They were talking comic books. They were talking comic stuff.
We drove Sam away already, so.
Yeah.
You drove Sam away already?
Yeah, Sam just hopped in for a few seconds and then.
Are you going to be with us for a little bit, Emily?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, great.
Well, if you are, then we can use your Zoom.
Yeah, that's true. I'd have to get back up. I'd have to get up and like go to the other room, but sure.
Well, if you don't want to get up, don't get up.
Come on.